Representative Underwood, I now recognize you for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I join my colleagues on this committee and Americans across the country in grieving the deaths of the U.S. service members who were killed during the August 26th terror attack in Kabul. The VA has responded swiftly to the surge in demand for mental health and crisis resources, and I urge the department to continue to take every available step to ensure that veterans suffering from new or worsened mental health conditions have access to the care and to the support that they need. Now, there have been reports of significant increases in outreach to the Veterans Crisis Line in recent weeks, including a 98% increase in text messages to the hotline between August 14th and August 29th. Now, the VA must also continue to expand evidence-based practices to prevent veteran suicide, including lethal means safety training. Given the proven effectiveness of lethal means safety training in reducing suicide rates, the VA requires all VHA clinical healthcare providers to take the department's lethal means safety training. As a result of this requirement, compliance is already above 90% among newly mandated VHA providers. However, the lethal means safety training course remains optional for other VA staff who regularly interact with veterans, as well as community providers and caregivers. My Lethal Means Safety Training Act would expand the required training courses to ensure that anyone who regularly interacts with veterans in their work is prepared to have a conversation that could save a veteran's life. So Dr. Miller, in response to a letter that I sent to Secretary McDonough in February, VA staff noted that only 30 community providers have completed the optional lethal means safety training course since October 2020. That's 30 providers across the country. Unacceptable. The Secretary's response further stated, quote, without a national mandate or incentive for non-VA community providers to take this course, VA will likely continue to face notable challenges advancing the mission of increasing the competency of the community and community-based healthcare providers to better identify, assess, intervene, and treat veterans at risk of suicide, end quote. Now, during the committee's hearing with Secretary McDonough in March, I asked about opportunities for the Secretary to use his own existing authorities to further expand mandatory lethal means safety trainings. And I was encouraged by his commitment to looking into this critical issue. So Dr. Miller, my question is, can you provide an update on any steps the VA has taken in the last 6 months or other actions that might be planned to expand lethal means safety trainings for VA staff, community care providers, and caregivers?
Thank you for your push and prompt on this very important issue. We share the perspective that this is critically important to suicide prevention as a whole, and as we've talked, accounts for 70% of veteran suicides with firearms alone. More broadly, with lethal means safety training, since that point in time, with the Secretary's support and at his behest, we have moved to officially integrating lethal means safety training as an agency priority goal for FY22, which includes training for community care providers who are working with veterans.
So you said a goal. What does that mean?
It means that we have put in writing that it is officially an agency goal to increase and enhance training, not just for VA and VHA providers and teams, but for community care providers as well. The first step of that is to take a look at ways that we can create a preferred provider system and network where community care providers who are working with veterans are incentivized to engage in the same training that VHA clinicians are engaged in, and in turn becoming then a preferred provider within the network for veterans based upon their increased awareness and acumen with lethal means safety.
And is this the only criteria to obtain the preferred provider status?
This is the only criteria that I am aware of because I am in on the discussions with regard to lethal means safety. I don't know if there are discussions outside of lethal means safety training and applied to preferred provider.
And as we close, do you know if this goal and the requirements will be complete by September 30th, which would be the end of this current fiscal year ahead of October 1st, the beginning of fiscal 22?
They would be complete by the conclusion of FY22, which would be next September.
The goals would be complete. Okay. If you all could have a get back to the committee and to my office about the current status of this goal setting process and the preferred provider program, including the criteria. I think this is a little bit askew from the mandate that we are looking for to ensure that any provider who is regularly interacting with a veteran, whether in the community or within the VA, is prepared to have a life-saving conversation. Thank you all to all the witnesses for your time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your indulgence. I yield back.